Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker and you're watching Weekly Wipe, a show about things that are happening. Things like this. Political harassment crisis. Lib Dems accused of rubbing millions up the wrong way while in office. Scotland's top cardinal steps down. Catholic Church apparently unhappy with the life of O'Brien. Already there are rumours an institution somewhere may be harbouring appropriate behaviour. And in astonishing scenes, having won the New Orleans half marathon, Mo Farah sails past naive reporter in the 10,000 metre cringe.
Now, haven't you run before?
Sorry?
Haven't you run before? This isn't your first time.
That's the sort of thing that's been going on, but we start here. So-called Blade Runner Oscar Pistorius is a world-famous athlete who overcame disability to become a Paralympian and hero to millions, starring in glossy, life-affirming commercials like this. His girlfriend, Reva Steenkamp, was a tall, blonde socialite model and celebrity due to appear in a fluffy reality show. Now, Steenkamp has been killed and Pistorius is at the centre of some of the most sensational news coverage in years.
Oscar Pistorius charged with shooting dead his girlfriend at his home. The Olympic and Paralympic star will appear in court tomorrow morning. It's left South Africa and the sporting world in shock.
Naturally, a murder case involving a supermodel and one of the biggest athletes in the world was irresistible to the media, and it made headlines around the globe. It was a crime story that interested the entertainment media too, who treated it as an interesting dash of blood in their overall showbiz stew.
Well, Pistorius hired a high-profile defense team, setting the stage for a real courtroom drama. His bail hearing was postponed until Tuesday. And another case with drama stamped all over it is Kim Kardashian's divorce.
As Pistorius' bail hearing began, it was clear the world's reporters could keep a close eye on him throughout, at times likening it to a sporting event.
As many eyes were trained on Pistorius in the dock as upon any stadium he's ever performed in. This on a day with as much drama in court as on an Olympic track.
Yeah, and more to discuss than any decathlon. This was a bail hearing without the full detail of a trial, but nonetheless the trial had begun in a sense, with all of us in the role of juror.
Kelly's Court is back in session. On the docket today, accused murderer and Olympic athlete Oscar Pistorius.
We were treated to video game recreations of the crime scene.
He ran down the corridor and shot Reva Steenkamp, who was behind a locked toilet door.
And lengthy speculation over the conflicting accounts.
There are indications, at least, that steroids may have played a part here.
He just screams and then fires through the door. It's not plausible.
Mainly, though, the news seemed to be there simply to look at the accused and to let us get a good look at him too.
A wall of cameras to greet him in courtroom C. The Paralympic athlete still struggling to control his emotions.
And interpreting those emotions became a prime focus of the coverage.
He certainly seemed tormented at times. His hands crossed, his eyes raw.
Tell me, Adam, how far away were you from him in court, and what did you see?
I was approximately about 5 to 10 meters, and what I could see was a very somber and upset human being, perhaps realizing that the real gravity of the situation.
Most of the time, those emotions were fairly easy to read because he was crying. And the news seemed to find it important to tell us just how much and how often he wept.
Oscar Pistorius has, in the last few moments, broken down in tears.
At every mention of the word murder, the Olympic and Paralympic Blade Runner Oscar Pistorius sobbed in court today.
Reporters weren't allowed to film during proceedings themselves, but during recess they could use smartphone technology to show us the courtroom interior.
We can actually hook up with our special correspondent, Alex Crawford. She's on her iPhone inside the courtroom.
Which, of course, meant even more up-to-the-minute crying bulletins.
Every time his girlfriend's name was mentioned, he burst into tears, sometimes sobbing quite uncontrollably, his shoulders absolutely heaving.
And that wasn't the only way to keep up to date.
Well, you can keep up with the latest from the courtroom. Follow our correspondent Andrew Harding on Twitter.
Yes, you could find out when Pistorius wept and whether his shoulders shook as he did so in real time thanks to the reporter's informative Twitter accounts. There were also helpful explanatory updates on his family's emotional state.
And the group of people that I'm showing you now are the Pistorius family, who are utterly distraught. His sister is sobbing. His father is being comforted by the lady whose back you can see.
For his family, at times, the strain seemed unbearable. They held to each other for support. His brother and sister embraced after hearing the claims. his father sat consumed by despair.
When the time came for the magistrate's bail verdict, the tweeting stepped up a notch with second-by-second deconstruction of every sniffle and blub on the accused's face. Since they didn't have live pictures, they may as well have augmented their coverage with a constantly updated Twitter feed on one side of the screen and a special emotional interpreter on the other, enacting his weeping live for our entertainment. Before the magistrate gave his verdict, he shared his view on the media circus.
It does raise the picture that the accused is some kind of species that the world has never seen before.
That bit was edited out of the nightly reports, although to be fair, the magistrate did need editing. He spoke for so long and so flatly, the reporters started retweeting jokes during his summary. Eventually, bail was granted, giving us time for one last crying and shoulders update.
As the magistrate began to announce his decision, Oscar Pistorius slumped, sobbing, his shoulders shaking.
Then Oscar Pistorius swapped the glare of the courtroom for the glare of the outside world.
That over there is Oscar Pistorius driving to freedom. He's just got bail and is driving off down this Pretoria street.
And the sightseeing safari of this exotic species continued all the way into the South African countryside. When the news doesn't have many concrete facts, it's content to let us sit and look. And thanks to technology, there are more ways of looking than ever before. The end result, when you look back at the footage, is that it doesn't really feel like news at all, more a strange form of sightseeing and a gathering of emotional souvenirs.
There was this online craze thing called the Harlem Shake. It was sort of like something that Alex Zane introduces clips of in 18 months' time, but now and on the internet.
You go to YouTube and put in Harlem Shake and you'd see like a big room and it'd have all these people in it. And none of them were doing anything apart from like one person who was sort of dancing a bit. And then the music would go all excited and suddenly everyone was dancing like they were crazy. It was literally that amazing. It's better than Gangnam Style because Gangnam Style looks better, but it's harder to do. Like with Harlem Shake, you don't have to learn anything, you just sort of go like that. It's brilliant.
Everyone's really flailing around, which is funny, and they're wearing silly things, which is funny as well. People say Stuart Lee's funny, but he's never done anything as funny as that. And he never will. Once you'd seen one video, right, you had to see another. And the good thing was that everyone was uploading their own versions, right? So you got to see what it looks like when people in different rooms suddenly all dance. It was amazing. You'd see like a big room of people and then they'd all be dancing, which was fun. Or sometimes you'd see people all outside and they'd all be dancing, which was probably more fun. And then you'd see people in an old folks home and they'd all be dancing, which is funny because they're old. And then you'd see another one in an old folks home and you'd be like, okay, I've sort of seen that. Sometimes you'd see like all war men with guns and stuff and you'd hear the music and you'd think, no way they're going to do the mad dance. That'd be mental. But then, right, they do it anyway. They do the Harlem Shake. It shows even men who've been trained to kill and have been handed implements of death by the state still like to let their hair down. They could probably do it as a victory dance, like on the battlefield over the bodies of people they've killed. And the music's quite loud, which would drown out the screaming.
And there were loads of people doing it in offices. And at first you're like, okay, yeah, that's really funny, you know? But then after a while, you start thinking, hello, the economy's sinking? How exactly is this supposed to help? It's all well and good waving your arms around with a funny hat on, but at the end of the day, you've got a job to do. We all have. So pull your weight. Stop fucking dancing and get back to work, you selfish Harlem Shake bastards.
God, you know what? This whole horse meat scandal has been going on for so long. It feels like it started back in, I don't know, 1948.
Horse meat is rapidly becoming part of Britain's diet. 3 million people buy it every week, though less than half that number know it. Public feeling grows against a sinister trade. The country demands action against a traffic so alien to the British people.
No wonder it feels like we've been watching gruesome images like this for the past 65 years. Anyway, against this backdrop of bad grub, ITV have perhaps unwisely chosen to launch a new show that celebrates good, honest home cooking by filling it with showbiz additives, artificial colourings and upsetting traces of horse shit.
Welcome to Food, Glorious Food, a competition to find Britain's most glorious recipe. Real food created by the nation's home cooks.
Food, Glorious Food is a talent show for recipes and it's created by Simon Cowell. It's effectively a plateful of Great British Bake Off leftovers hosted by a Carol Vorderman impersonator and flung on screen for you to watch while scoffing a microwaved equine lasagna from your lap. The premise is that eccentrics from across the country are putting their recipes up to be judged by 4 chunks of processed meat, namely face-pulling battle axe hyacinth bouquet, some voice of the beehive woman who's wandered off the Sheila's Wheels ad, dribble some stately home in a blazer Tom Parker bowls, and Scotch VHS tape skeleton and mass-market sauce-trepreneur Lloyd Grossman. It's like being trapped forever in a food-based antiques roadshow or a village fake concentration camp complete with iconic entrance sign. It's just not a very appetising dish. There are bits where the sour-faced one has to eat something gross. Endless references from Amy Winehouse to her bum or her knickers or her nan.
That's like my bum on a cold February morning, that.
She said bum.
Every time I open my knicker drawer, it smells like my nana's house, and that's what I smell. Nice, fresh, clean knickers.
She said knickers.
She made the effort, like, you know, but I mean, my nana makes the effort when she gets out of bed every morning and puts her tights and knickers on. Doesn't mean she's going to win 20 grand for it, does it?
She said nana and knickers, and she's from the north. There's also lots of explicit footage of Lloyd Grossman chewing the cud like a bespectacled tortoise. Which is great news if you find it sexy, like I do. Ooh.
It's very good.
Sadly, there are traces of horse DNA in Tom Parker bowls.
It's perfect.
Would you like to go on with me?
Trouble is, there's a flaw in the basic premise. On the one hand, Food, Glorious Food purports to celebrate individual cookery made by eccentrics, by which I mean people who mush cabbage with their feet or dress like the shopkeeper from Mr. Ben. But on the other, the ultimate prize is to have your honest homemade food turned into a mass-market ready meal for people to reheat and shovel into their downturned mouths between guttural sobs of despair as they sit at home watching yet another formulaic talent contest like this one, pretending everything's fine and everyone's happy. The whole thing's designed to feel inclusive and chummy in that horribly false big society way, but frankly, it can keep calm and f*** off. Still, it is undeniably interesting watching the judges having to eat odd dishes.
Sausages in milk. Yes.
You know they say you never see white dog shit anymore? Turns out you do.
So I'd like you to try it for the taste rather than the appearance.
Right.
So I've brought you a little blindfold. Open your mouth. There you go.
Oh, it's just like 9.5 weeks, this. Ooh.
Now that tastes floury.
But she isn't the only fantasy Brit lady to sample unusual flavours. No, our very own Nigella is currently wowing them stateside in another, even more demented foodie talent show.
This is a cooking competition unlike any other.
The Taste is an astonishing new American food talent contest which is basically The Voice with food.
It's all about the taste and nothing but the taste.
Why? Because we're tasting the food blind.
Britain's favourite finger-licking curvatron is joined on panel duties by Mr. Tumble, a Playmobil pool boy, and Monica's dad from Friends. The idea is simple. The panel simply have to taste 1 spoonful of each one a chef's wares. 1 spoon. Because they don't have any idea who made it or what's in it, it's an experience almost exactly like buying any meat product in Britain today. If they like what they taste, they can sign the chef responsible up for their team in time for a forthcoming cook-off.
I like the sweet, the heat, all of that. I like a little bit of the crunch. Yeah. The scallop was cooked perfectly. So I really see you as somebody I would like to work with and could potentially join Team Malarkey. So. We've got an in right here.
Wow.
Although some of these chefs, entertainingly enough, turn out to be dicks.
I'm gonna come at them full force, and they're not even gonna know what's happening because it's coming from the future through a time portal, smashing them in the face with awesomeness. And there's nothing they can do about it.
What he's saying is he's going to put some food on a spoon. And what's on that spoon? Take it away, chef.
This is a pineapple, maitake mushroom, ground turkey, sun-dried tomato, mac and cheese stir-fry. You can't necessarily put those flavors together in your head.
I can imagine something like it coming out of my head into the toilet. When a chef's spoonful displeases the panel, they send them back to the kitchen like an omelette with a pube on it.
It's appalling, and you will not be cooking in my kitchen.
Thank you.
Then they kill him, cut him up, cook him and eat him. Just kidding.
You know.